Hello world, Lucas Gibb here. Welcome to the very first video for CloudJourneyman.com. Hopefully this will be the first of many videos with loads of cool IT and cloud stuff for your enjoyment. I hope that I can teach you something useful on the way, and I'm sure I will learn a lot myself by helping you on your cloud journey. Today we are going to install the server edition of Ubuntu 16.04 LTS on a XenServer. Let's get started. First we'll need to download the ISO image for Ubuntu from the Ubuntu website, ubuntu.com. Once you're there, click on Download and Server and download the latest edition. The latest edition at the moment is 16.04.1. The image I'll actually be using is a little bit older. Hopefully that doesn't make too much of a difference with the install. I may do a newer video later on. So I've already got the ISO image uploaded and in my ISO share on my XenServer. So today I'm going to be opening that up in my Windows virtual machine, which is just a local machine running on my Mac in VirtualBox. So we're going to XenCenter, which is the application you use to manage XenServer. And that ISO file is just on a Windows share on my network, which is then mounted on the XenServer so that those ISO images are accessible. So you'll see there, once I'm connected to the XenServer, I have a CIFS ISO library with a couple of ISO images in there for different installations. There's 16.04 server there. So next thing we'll do is create the virtual machine. So we can do that in a variety of ways. We can add a new server, go to VM and new VM, or you can right click here on your XenServer and go new VM, and that'll kick off the wizard. So I'm going to use the Ubuntu 14.04 template. There's actually no 16.04 template, but the 14.04 one seems to work okay. Click next, give it a name. I usually copy, just for reference, I usually put in that I'm using the 14.04 template just in case it becomes an issue later on. And let's just call this machine Demo 01. Okay, and then we'll select the ISO image that we want to use. And we'll allocate some CPUs. I usually give minimum 4 virtual CPUs, and probably the minimum you want to use is 2 gig of RAM. Okay, and then we'll give it some storage. 8 gig is the default template, but I usually like to double that at least, depending on the application that you want to run on top of it. 16 gig is ample for the operating system, but generally you'll find down the track you may need some more space, and it's easier to allocate it initially rather than trying to go back later on. If you've got multiple networks and you only need one, you can delete any additionals here. In my server I've only got one network available. Okay, and that's it. Basically we've finished the wizard, so now we hit create and that will start building our virtual machine for us. In a few seconds you should see it pop up on the left hand side here under our list of VMs. There we go, there's Demo 01, and that's started up the virtual machine. And click on it and then go to the console tab and we can begin the installation. So obviously depending on which options you want here, choose your language, and then this screen can get a little bit buggy, but if you just hit up and down on the arrows. That will sort of clear up the menu so that you can see what you're looking at. And we want to install Ubuntu server. Hit enter on the keyboard. Okay, once again I'm going to select English for the language and United States. Yeah, let's go United States. I'm actually in Australia, but that'll do us for this demo. Now, generally, the keyboard detection doesn't work so well, so I'm just going to say no and hit English US. English US again. I think sometimes going through a Windows virtual machine, running on a Mac, using a Mac keyboard, it doesn't pick it up very well anyway, so it's easier just to select exactly what we want. Okay, I'm just waiting for the install components to load. And this is just trying to pick up some of our network configuration. Okay, and then basically we'll just enter in a name for our virtual machine. So once again, I'll just call this Demo01. Hit enter. Okay, and I'm going to set up a user. So this first step, we give it a full name. And then it's going to want to create a username for that. So continue, and we put in a password. Okay. I usually don't encrypt the home directories, but that's personal preference. You may like to do that to keep things a little bit more secure. Okay, so it's actually picked up my location as Australia, so let's go ahead and set that now. Okay, so this is where we choose how we want to format our disks. Usually I just go with the default option, which is guided, use the entire disk. Obviously it's a virtual disk that we've created for the machine, so we're going to use all of that anyway, and using LVM will make life a little bit easier down the track when you do want to expand your storage or change things around. So obviously in this one we've only got one disk, so we'll just hit enter again. Okay, and then it's just going to set up the LVM for us. So by default, if you don't want to muck around with your settings, you can just pretty much enter straight through. Okay, we want to use the full disk again, 16.7 gig. Okay, and that's just giving us an outline of what it's going to create for us there, which partitions it's going to create. Just hit yes again on that to actually commit that and format the disk and get Ubuntu on the way. This will take a little while to actually complete the install, depending on the hardware you're using. So Ubuntu is a great Linux distribution that can be used for a variety of tasks, from a desktop operating system to forming the basis for a mail server, web server, VoIP server, all those kind of applications. It can even run your TV or pet robot. There's various different flavors of it now for different types of devices. It's got a fantastic community supporting it, and over the last few years it has become one of my favorite distributions for various different reasons. One big benefit of Ubuntu is the fact that they offer LTS or long-term support releases, which is supported and maintained with security patches for 5 years. And that makes Ubuntu a great choice for businesses where it will be used in production environments. This version that we're installing today is obviously an LTS version, long-term support. So we know that that's going to be looked after for several years. The last thing you want is to install a version of software that's going to be outdated and no longer patched and supported after a year's time. Okay, so that's just about done there. By default, it'll install minimal packages just to get it going, and then Ubuntu has a really good installation package management system that you can use later on to add on all the extra tools that you need. Alright, so this is where it's going to start doing updates and installing extra packages. So for my network, I don't need a proxy server, but if you do need one, you can enter it in here. And this is now configuring apt, which is the Ubuntu package manager. This is one of the great things about Ubuntu. Their packages are really well maintained, and because it's got such a great community around it, pretty much any software that you want to install on the system is available as a package, and it's makes putting the software you need on the server really easy. Now obviously this video assumes that you do know what XenServer is and you have a XenServer already. For anyone that doesn't use it and already have one, I'll probably do an installation video down the track of how to get XenServer set up and what you need to get it installed. This server here is just my little home server, which is just running on an old PC, which cost me $200, and it doesn't have a lot of resources. There's not a lot of memory and CPU in there, but it does the job for what I need at home just to muck around with. My internet's running really slowly at the moment for some reason, so I may pause this and come back in a few minutes when this is finished, and we'll continue on. Okay, so the configuration of apt is complete. That only actually took a few extra seconds, but now it wants to work out how we want to handle the upgrades to the system. So I usually select that I'd like to install security updates automatically, which just keeps your system patched for any issues that are going around to keep it secure. You can choose no automatic updates if you like, if you're a little bit worried about things happening automatically, and then just manage your own system updates later on using apt. But let's go with install security updates automatically for the moment. Okay, and this is where we can select if we do want to set up some software or some services on this server straight away. You can do it as part of the install. I usually choose not to do that and just install OpenSSH server just so that I can connect to it a little bit more easily down the track and just continue on from there. Okay, so now that our software is all installed, the wizard's just got a few last questions for us. It just needs to install the bootloader, which is the part that actually tells the computer or the virtual machine what it needs to load up when it turns on. So we're just going to use the grub bootloader. Obviously this virtual machine isn't going to have any other software other than Ubuntu, so we can pretty much just hit the default options here and let it do its thing. It's just configuring a few last files it needs, and then we should be pretty much done. Now my network here uses a DHCP server, so this machine was given an IP address automatically. So once we reboot after finishing this install, which I'll do now, we'll just need to find that IP address, and then we can connect to the machine directly rather than going through the XenServer console. The Xen console is fantastic, but it can be a little bit laggy and a little bit harder to control the server rather than just talking to it directly. Okay, so that VM is rebooting now. Okay, and then basically we'll just go and log on with those details that we set up earlier. Okay, and we're logged into the console now. So to find out the IP address, we can just go ipconfig and the inet address, or yeah, that's the address that we need there, which has been allocated by the network. So what I would usually do then is jump out of XenServer for the moment and open up terminal, which is Mac's console, and we can then SSH into that machine. And better actually go and grab that IP address because I didn't take note of it. So 80.241. Okay, and we'll just accept the fingerprint of this new server that we've never connected to before by typing yes and putting in our password. So now we're basically seeing the same output as what we see in the XenServer console, but we're connected directly to it. So the next thing we need to do, in fact we probably should have done that before we connected to it, is to install the XenServer tools, which are the software that runs on the machine to actually help XenServer talk to the virtual machine a little bit more closely, and helps to improve the performance and the integration of that virtual machine with the host, with the XenServer host. So basically all we do is we insert the XS Tools ISO, or the XenServer Tools ISO, into the virtual machine's DVD drive, virtual DVD drive, and then we run a few commands here. So, oops. So sudo mount dev cd-rom, and we're going to mount that into that folder there, which doesn't exist. I think I've got, don't need a dot there. Okay, so this error here we can ignore about it mounting, and the image it's mounting is write protected, and it's mounting it read only. Of course, it's a CD image, which CD images are always going to be read only, so that's fine. We don't need to write to it. Okay, so that image is now mounted in /mnt or mount. Okay, and we can have a look at the contents of it there. Now to install it, basically we just go sudo mount Linux and install shell. Okay, and that's just going to run a shell script which will go and install all of the tools that it needs to be a happy little XenServer guest. Okay, and then after we do that, we basically reboot as well. Now just to show you what that's going to do, the main thing is that the networking here, well actually at the moment it does already know the IP address, so it must have some smarts already built in, but let's reboot that anyway. Generally, it may have actually already been working, but before you put the XenServer tools on, you'll see something more like this, saying that its IP address is unknown, which makes life a little bit easier once XenServer can actually pick that up automatically. And you'll also see here the virtualization state saying that XenServer tools are not installed. And once that boots up again, it should tell us that it's optimized. There you go, optimized, and it's got the 6.5 version of XenServer tools installed. Alright, so now, as I said, now that we've got all that done, we can now get rid of this altogether and just work in our SSH terminal. And the other thing that I usually do with any installation of Ubuntu is to install install the updates, basically, to make sure that it's actually all up to date. So I'll just go sudo apt-get update. Chuck in your password. The sudo command that I'm typing at the start there just escalates my session to be a super user, so that I can actually run administrator level commands safely. So that basically just, that command there, the update command, just goes and gets a fresh list of all of the available packages, and then we want to do sudo apt-get upgrade, which will go through and upgrade all of the existing packages that we've got on the system. It gives you a list of those there, showing you which ones will be updated and upgraded. And then, yeah, everything will be on the latest version available. So this, once again, may take a little while, so I'll pause the video for a second and come back to you once that's all done. Okay, so once those updates are installed, you'll see down the bottom that basically everything is triggered okay. Just check for any errors and make sure there's nothing mentioned that failed to install or is having problems. But that's it. Our server's basically ready to go. We've got an operational Ubuntu server running on our XenServer, and we're ready to take over the world. What are you going to build? There's lots of things that can go on top. I'm going to show some more videos with building various different applications on top of Ubuntu. If you like this video, please subscribe and like, and let us know in the comments what you'd like to see. Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoy.